So when I landed there, I had no knowledge about the market. I had no knowledge about the people. I had no knowledge about the culture. And then I said that now it's time to move on to other pastures, explore, bigger challenges, as the case may be.
One very amazing line that you say, which we often forget, is the want to keep learning, which is so rightly said. Hello everyone and welcome back to FaceTime with Leaders, a podcast by Directors Institute, World Council of Directors. I'm your host Tanay All, and today we have with us someone whose journey spans not just decades but continents. Mr. Krishnamurti Prabhakar is a global name in insurance and reinsurance with over 20 years of leadership across India, Middle East and beyond. He has worked with giants like Zurich International, AIG and Oriental Insurance and negotiated with the world's top reinsurers like Swiss Re, Hannover Re and Lloyd's of London, and has turned around multiple companies from startups into market leaders. He's also a chartered insurer from the UK, a fellow of the Life Management Institute in the US and the recipient of the Alexander Howden Award for Best Performance in Asia. Today, he leads strategic collaborations and Insurtech at Zain Group in Kuwait. But what makes this conversation truly special isn't just about his career achievements, it's the resilience, the negotiation mastery, and the governance mindset that has guided him through boardrooms, regulatory reforms, and high-stake global deals. Mr. Prabhakar, welcome to FaceTime with Leaders. It's such a privilege to have you with us today.
The honor and privilege is mine, Tanay. Thank you so much for having me.
Likewise, sir, it's our privilege as well, and we can't wait to look forward to talking to you and our audience to hear about your journey. So, where we would like to start with is that every leader has a beginning. So, we would love to know that behind all that hard work, what was it like in the early years? Like, how did you step into the world of insurance and reinsurance, and what were the biggest lessons of those formative years?
Yeah, thank you for having me again. I would like to go back about 4 decades when my journey actually started in the field of insurance. But I would like to mention to you that it was like more of a serendipitous event, a kind of a decree of destiny, if you will, because at the time that I was looking for a suitable job opening, I had a few options. But one of the options that really stood out for me was this offer from the New India Assurance Company, which at that time was one of the leaders in the general insurance space. It had a pedigree in its origins because it was founded by the Tatas, and the Tata ethos was supposed to have been embedded into the institution right at the very basic level. So the DNA of the Tatas is what guided me to take my first steps into that very, very noble institution. That hallowed portals of the New India Assurance is where I walked in on the 1st of June, 1983. After a short induction training for about 6 months, I was assigned a role as an officer in the reinsurance department, which happens to be the vanguard department of any insurance company. In fact, it's the bedrock of any insurance operation. Without reinsurance, insurance cannot function properly. Okay, now having done that particular phase of my journey over there, I had a few nice years over there. But then going forward, I somehow felt a bit of an unease, primarily because there was a little bit of a hierarchical rigidity, which meant that your growth prospects were a bit stymied as far as I could see. And again, there was also a culture of great conformity with also some kind of a loyalty to petrified opinion that was required. Now, all this gave me the impression that the path forward for someone who's seeking personal and professional growth in a reasonable span of time was not going to be that simple or easy, or I would say comfortable in that sense. And that's when I decided that let me open up a new chapter in wherever destiny can take me. And I therefore gave test to a very old adage which says that if you have the courage to bid farewell, life will always say a new hello to you. And this is an ad infinitum process. So that's when I closed the New India chapter and I opened up a new chapter.
Lovely, sir. I think small things that happen early in our life shape our career in such a beautiful way. Like you said, working with the Tatas would have just set foundations so strong.
Right. Yes. Yes, that does. I mean, the Tatas are known for ethics and integrity
Yeah,
and good faith. And that is exactly what sets them apart from other business groups, wherever you may see them. Yeah.
absolutely, sir. So your career honestly is like a travel map. India, Bahrain, UAE, Oman, Dubai, Kuwait, and in each market you weren't just surviving, you were building and scaling. From pension plans in Bahrain to medical treaties in Kuwait. What was the biggest culture shock or leadership challenge you faced, sir? Because you were working in such different geographies, and how did you adapt?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, after my brief exposure to the insurance segments of the industry with New India, I stepped into a completely new world of pension planning for corporates. And that happened to be a role that I took up in Bahrain with an institution of, a British pedigree, which was called the Eagle Star International at that time, which is then converted into Zurich. It got taken over by Zurich. There, I had a mandate actually to develop corporate plans, which had never been done before in that market for this institution. And the gentleman who actually interviewed me for the role was a visionary in the sense that he said to me that, listen, we have a 15-year roadmap ahead of us in which we wish to transform this small little segment of Bahrain into something world class. Because he said, I know it has the potential, but it needs the right personnel to come in and do the job. So I thought about it and I said, well, this seems to be a challenge, but at the same time, challenges also come with opportunities. So I decided to take it on, even though it was a completely new line of business for me, a new line of activity in many, many respects. First and foremost, the organization was new. It had its own culture. It had its own nuances, communication challenges, leadership challenges, and all that. And then you're talking to people who are offshore and you need to communicate in such a way that they understand the ground realities and so on. So it was a startup and it had to be started on the right footing. So when I landed there, I had no knowledge about the market. I had no knowledge about the people. I had no knowledge about the culture. All that I had to do within a very short span of time to bring the entire elements fusing together to go forward. Fortunately for me, when I landed there, I happened to network with some key individuals who were like facilitators for me. So as they say, when the pioneer is ready, the facilitators show up. So in my case, that's exactly what happened. I was able to touch base with a very key gentleman who was at that time the chairman of the Bahrain Petroleum Company. And he in turn said to me that, look, if you guys are into offshore planning and setting up pension plans, etc., maybe we would like to listen to what you have to offer us. And that's how the portals opened. And I stepped into the world of corporate pensions as a completely new entrant, in a way, a novice at that time. But then I happened to adopt Mr. Satya Nadella's, adage that say that don't be a know-it-all, but be a learn-it-all. So I said, let me learn something completely new and let me learn the art of communication, the art of presentation, and so on. And then, as they say, when fortune favors you, you have to be brave. So I decided to take the plunge into that field. I was fortunate enough to have the support of the management, the resources that I had over there. They were very, very supportive. And then at the end of the day, we had to make a presentation to the Bahrain Petroleum Board and to convince them that we are the right people and the right kind of organization to handle a very sensitive portfolio, which is called pensions. The opportunity arose since because during the Iraq invasion, there was a lot of uncertainty in the region. And people realized that, look, they can be victims of any kind of event, geopolitical event like this. So they needed to have a site of an offshore secure haven by which their lifetime savings are not eroded or confiscated or whatever it is. So that's how the whole thing started. And once that was done, then it followed with many other achievements in that little market. So I can say that my contribution there were pretty seminal, and they were recorded, they were rewarded, and they were acknowledged at all the highest levels of that organization. So I had a splendid 6 years of my tenure in Bahrain, and then I said that now it's time to move on to other pastures, explore bigger challenges, as the case may be.
One very amazing line that you say, which we often forget, is the want to keep learning, which is so rightly said. That as long as you're wanting to keep learning new skills, anything will be a challenge, but will also be an opportunity to grow.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely.
So you've turned out you've turned around underperforming divisions more than once. For example, Oriental Insurance with ACII Mulla Group and at the Gulf Takaful. For our listeners, can you break down what's your first move when you walk into a company that needs a turnaround?
Right. Excellent question, and I think it requires a very, very informed answer. Yes, my foray into Gulf Takaful was one again as a headhunted individual, because there was someone who wanted they were looking for a resource person who had the right kind of connections with the reinsurance industry. They were formed under the auspices of the Global Investment House in Kuwait, and they were looking for somebody who can take on the role of a reinsurance, a strategic person, a resource who can bring to the table all the resources of the giant reinsurers. Now, when I stepped in over there, the challenge I had was basically twofold. Firstly, to handle the local personnel over there who were already there within the organization. For them to accept somebody as a total outsider in every respect was something which did not go down very well. So first I had to establish my credentials. I had to take a little bit of time. You don't have to shout about what you are, but just show what you can do. So that's what I had to do for the first couple of months to 3 months. Second thing, the very, very unique thing in these parts is that you are having a lot of responsibility and accountability, but you are not given authority that easily. So you can understand from here that when you are basically having to discharge certain onerous responsibilities and are accountable to the top management, you do need some authority also to function. Otherwise, it's just like being a lame duck. So I had to spend a little bit of time building my bridges with the chief executive, with the board of management of the couple, etc., to make them believe that I had not only the credentials, but I was a trustworthy person. Because at the end of the day, they are giving me the trust to put their company on a course, which tomorrow, if it happens to be the wrong one, they are the ones who are going to be in the firing line and I may be a goner. So I had to use my communication skills and my credibility as an individual, my background, to ensure that they believe that what I'm bringing to the table is the most appropriate solutions for the company. So this I was able to achieve, fortunately. And by this process, I was able to bring on board some of the very reputed reinsurance companies, such as the Hannover Re and the Swiss Re and the Munich Re, to support the treaties of the company. And also, I established a new life division over there, for which, again, I was able to establish a very, very bespoke treaty. And that ensured that the company was able to have a very, very meteoric rise in terms of growth and profitability as well. And I was able to build a portfolio which was probably the envy of most of the startups in the region, because I was able to take some of the accounts which were with the old established players and put them onto the books of Gulf Takaful and make them as as an entity worth noting and worth talking about. So that's how I was able to straddle the challenge of credibility and of trust, and then of putting the right resources in place within the team itself so that they believe you. And my motto was always that, look, let's look for solutions.
Yeah.
It's the easiest thing in the world to just put problems on the table, but do you have a solution to offer? If you have a solution to offer, then let's talk. Because just putting problems on the table can be done by anybody. It doesn't require any genius to do that. So that is a culture I had to build also, to be solution seeking all the time. And I always I always used to tell my reportees that, look, when you come to me to discuss a problem, have a solution in your mind, no matter what it is. We can discuss that. Maybe there is a gem of an idea over there which is to be discovered and extracted. And so that's how I put the culture of solution thinking out there into the setup. And that helped to a great deal, to take the organization forward. Yeah.
I think our audience would have taken a lot of notes during this answer.
Thank you.
Sir, I'd love to ask about a moment that really stands out, which is receiving the Alexander Howden Award for being the top candidate at the Chartered Institute of London's examination. And also on the professional side, being honored with the Steve Melcher Award in Bahrain. Recognition like that doesn't come around often. So, what did those achievements mean to you personally, and how did they shape your journey afterwards?
Well, to be very frank, it kind of opened up discuss for me in ways that I had not imagined. For example, the Alexander Howden Award came about after a lot of struggle. For instance, you were not permitted actually to enroll for the Chartered Insurance Institute examinations of London as an official, enrollee from the Indian market. So you needed to find a way to register yourself through London, through some associates that you may have. That was the first challenge. Okay, I overcame that challenge through some of my friends and associates and well-wishers in London. But the next challenge was to have the resources, the study resources to be organized, because each one of the study resources were probably about 4 to 5 times a monthly income. And you can imagine the kind of challenge that was. So then I had to, bring to the table my good friend at the National Insurance Academy and convince him that what I'm doing is the right thing in terms of future prospects, in terms of, opening up opportunities for others who would like to join. And I got the entire study material ordered through the National Insurance Academy so that it benefited a large number of people. So along with me, there were a few others who were far ahead of me in terms of their academic qualifications in insurance. In fact, they had achieved the pinnacle. They were fellowship holders, and I was not even the basic level guy from the Indian Institute. But then yet, I felt that by joining the Chartered Insurance Institute, I'm actually trying to put myself on a platform which is more universally acceptable, which gives me more international credentials. So that was the reason I joined there. And I was very much surprised, in fact, to receive that award, because at the end of the day, I didn't know what kind of a fish was to be fried over there. The examination patterns are different. They are not rote learning stuff. They are things related to case studies where you bring to bear all your knowledge, all your experience on the job, and apply them to the given problems. So once you did all that, well, somehow I was able to cross that hurdle, and when I got the notification of the award, it really gave me a lot of satisfaction, because it was not just the study part of it, but the background struggle that one had to go through to get it done and to benefit many others down the line. That was as far as the Alexander Howden Award was concerned. It was academic, but also it was something to do with institution building, because people were aspiring for that qualification at some point. The second thing, a Steve Melcher Award is essentially something which related to my achievements in Bahrain, where I contributed to a big chunk of the growth of that particular operation in Bahrain. And there was a small little competition that was there in terms of saying that who is able to generate the maximum portfolio volumes and the quality of the business. So that happened to be coming from my side, and then I was adjudged to be the best performer in that segment. That's how the Steve Melcher Award, which is basically an international award, came on my table, and that helped me to attend a lot of international conventions, which covered Australia, which covered Europe, and then other places like London, etc. So that again was a very satisfying part of my journey. Yeah.
Truly inspirational, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, you've been in boardrooms negotiating multi-million-dollar reinsurance programs with Swiss Re, Hannover Re, Lloyd's. Negotiations like these decide whether companies sink or swim. What's your personal negotiation philosophy when the stakes are sky
high? Yeah, good question. As far as I can see, as far as I understand, negotiation is all about give and take. It is all about bringing to the table a certain win-win mindset. It is never about a zero-sum game. So when we are talking about these big reinsurance giants, you're basically presenting a proposition from a slightly weaker position as far as your bargaining powers are concerned, because you want them to support you for what you have to offer to them sometime in the future. And it's not as if you say that I have all this with me now and can you come and be a participant in my future journey. What they want to see, two things. They want to see what is your vision, what is the kind of a statement of vision you have for the future years, what kind of execution plans have you brought to the table to ensure that that vision is met, and going forward, can you be trusted? So when these things come up, your negotiations become one of projecting your kind of background credibility. It is a very, very important aspect, because although we had an international broker based in London who was carrying the flag for us, but ultimately it is the company representative who has to, provide the beef, who has to back it up with certain credentials, with certain, trustworthy statements, forward-looking statements. So this is where my role was very important, because it became a very, very critical thing for me to ensure that the gentlemen at Swiss Re believe what I'm saying is going to be achieved through the strategy that we have devised and the plans that we have discussed. And when we are discussing these things in the Swiss Re boardrooms, it becomes one of high stakes, because a lot of things rides on it. If you fail there, then you have no legs to stand as far as the company is concerned, because then the cedent becomes a lame duck. So it was a lot riding there, and I can say with great satisfaction that I carried the day, fortunately, by whatever divine grace or whatever you may say, and the treaty was conveyed to us. And not only that, I was able to get what is called an underwriting authority, which is granted to very, very selective cedents by people at Swiss Re. And it's the same story when I negotiated treaties with Hannover Re. It's a very similar thing. They are also a giant reinsurer. They also need to have credibility backing up your statements. So when I represented the company or the portals of Hannover Re, it was again on the basis that, look, we have something like a game plan, we have something like a strategic vision, and we can execute it with the kind of resources we have, and we have the leadership to do that. So there again, it was achieved. So at the end of the day, what I always believed in, have confidence in yourself, believe in what you're saying 100%, carry integrity, and have a win-win mindset. This will carry you through any of the stormy seas that you may see in the future. Yeah.
Very true, sir. All right, sir. Now it's time for our very own quick rapid fire round. We have a few questions, and we would love if the answers would be in one word or one sentence, but as quick as possible. So, are we ready?
Please shoot.
Perfect. If your career was a book title, what would it be?
Crossing multiple Rubicons, a journey of a nomad.
Oh, lovely. Tea, coffee, or something stronger? What fuels your boardroom marathons?
Conviction.
The toughest deal you ever closed in one word?
The medical field.
Which city in your journey, Bahrain, Dubai, Kuwait, London, stole your heart?
It's always going to be Bahrain. That was my first port of call and was a great success for me.
If you weren't in insurance, what's the career you would secretly choose?
I think I would have been happier as an aerospace engineer.
Oh, that's lovely. Great, sir. We were bang on, we were quick, we were answering in a go. I feel like asking you 10 other questions, but we're on a time constraint, so I'll move on.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Sir, given your experience negotiating and finalizing international reinsurance treaties for companies like Ghazal Insurance and Gulf Takaful, how did you ensure that the coverage promised by reinsurers was genuine and that client risks were accurately represented, especially considering the risks of phantom insurance or misrepresented exposures?
Yeah, very good question actually, and very, very relevant also from the point of view of the insurance industry. You see, what happens is in insurance is that a lot of the risks that we see are coming through the intermediaries. And the intermediaries have every incentive to place a risk on your books even though the risk may be underrepresented in terms of the risk profile. So what I had to do was ensure that the information that is being shared with me is accurate. So first things first, we need to have a pre-risk survey done, regardless of what the intermediary says. And in this part of the world, very often the risk questionnaires are not done very diligently. There is a lot of gap in the information. So we need to ensure that what they are stating out there is actually what exists on the ground. That is the first thing, right? So we need to do pre-risk surveys to ensure that what you're feeding into the system is the correct representation of the risk as it stands. Second thing, that we have what is called a warranty implementation. Warranty implementation basically says that you need to have certain risk management tools or risk management devices placed at the target place where, for example, firefighting equipment, fire extinguishers, access to the fire brigades, and so on and so forth. And we have to ensure that there's a system in place by which the insured maintains those warranties right through the policy period. Because if there is a breach of warranty, then the insurance contract is a null and void situation. Now, all this happens in the backdrop of the reinsurers because they have given you the authority to underwrite the risk by giving you what they call the underwriting pen. Now, it is your word of honor that they go by when you see a certain risk there based upon your assessment of the risk. They are not coming and inspecting the risks. Now, if you happen to violate the code of honor, then not only are you going to lose the trust of the reinsurer, but you're going to lose out big time on the market opportunities also. So many of my clients used to say to me that what is the big deal, that if, for example, a firefighting equipment has not been in working condition for the last 3 months, what does it matter? I said, my friend, it matters a lot, because tomorrow if you have a multi-million-dollar claim over there, there is a loss that happens. During that period, your equipment was a non-functioning equipment, your claim is going to be denied. So whose interest is it? You're serving your interest, not my interest. You're not doing me a favor. So it had to be a cultural reorientation of how they thought about risk. Because insurance, as far as the client is concerned, is a transaction. He thinks he's paying you a premium, you're issuing him a policy. In the event of anything that goes wrong, which affects his assets, he needs to have his claim paid regardless. But that is not how it works. Then there is a certain contract, there is a framework. You need to ensure that you adhere to your part of the bargain as far as the contract is concerned. So a lot of re-education in terms of how the risk is perceived, that needs to be done. And that is always an ongoing challenge. It is never a one-off thing. It keeps happening all the time. Misrepresentations happen all the time. But it is on the onus is on the underwriter to ensure that he gets himself completely familiar with the risk before he undertakes to issue the policy or take the risk on.
Yeah, true. That's the right way to go about it. Mr. Prabhakar, you've joined Directors Institute recently after decades of leadership. What motivated you to still step into a learning ecosystem at this stage, and how did Directors Institute reshape your perspective as a leader?
Yeah, Tuna, at the end of the day, life stops when you stop learning. Growth stops when you stop learning. So whether you're a 65-year-old or a 70-year-old, it doesn't matter. What really matters is how young you are at heart and how willing you are to learn new things. So for me, this represented an opportunity to step into a different world where I will be able to participate, probably in a very meaningful way, in some of the board, decisions that could be taken at some point in the future at various places. And it also opens up opportunities for you to maybe reshape thinking at the strategic level in some of the companies, and maybe bring to bear certain points of view that you feel very strongly about and which currently you feel are not being taken notice of adequately. And also, it helps me to learn new things in terms of governance practices as they evolve. Now, for example, let me give you the example of the ESG. The ESG is a recent phenomenon. This was never on the table maybe 2 decades ago. Today, it is becoming number one kind of factor coming in. When you look at the oil industry, they are basically very much on the cusp of the ESG, revolution. So when you look at all these things, there are so many things that you can participate in and be an informed citizen and contribute your might. It doesn't matter how old you are, to be frank.
Very correct, sir. And thank you so much, sir, for those kind words and for joining us today, taking out some time, because it's been a privilege learning and hearing about your journey from underwriting ISRO satellites in the 80s to shaping global reinsurance programs today. It's been a thorough, enriching experience, sir. So thank you once again.
Thank you very much tonight. It was a pleasure, and I really look forward to having more sessions with you in the near future. All the
Thank you
best.
so much,
God
sir.
bless.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
To
you.
our audience, I hope you found this conversation as inspiring as I did. If you enjoyed it, please share it with someone who needs to hear these insights. This has been FaceTime with Leaders, powered by Directors Institute. I'm Tanayol, and until next time, keep learning, keep evolving, keep striving for success, and of course, have fun in your journey. Thank you so much.